Brandon, you hit the road and you went to Indianapolis to catch games 3 and 4 of the finals. How was your trip?
Man, the trip was a blast, especially game 4, obviously. But I got to admit, Indy is a cool town. The Pacers fans I experienced were great and helpful and cool. And a special shout out, by the way, I wanted to begin with this. I was on the court in Indy, and a Thunder fan yelled at me, so I went over and said, hey, met him, very, very cool, nice guy, cool to see a Thunder fan in Indianapolis. And he said, dude, I listen to you guys on the Daily Thunder podcast every week, so what's up to Harrison? It was cool to meet you out in Indy.
Well, thanks, Harrison. Thanks for listening. We know we have at least one listener now, so...
That's what I thought. I was like, hey, you're the one.
Yeah. That's right. This is not for naught. We're really doing it for Harrison. Harrison, this is your show.
Indy was great, though. I won't, spend too much time on it. The best thing I could say is never did I think that I would be performing Ice Ice Baby at the Wild Beaver Saloon in downtown Indianapolis in front of some OKC Thunder luminaries, media members. I won't, say names, but that may be something I'll look back later in my life and laugh and share the story. Or maybe something I look back and be like, why did I perform a drunken Ice Ice Baby in front of those people? We'll see.
Oh, it sounds like a trip, and maybe we'll have to save the names for some kind of subscriber only thing one day or something. Keep that in the back pocket. But glad to hear that you're back. You survived Indianapolis, and also at least came back with one win to talk about. Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, publisher of Daily Thunder, and I'll be your host today. Alongside me is Daily Thunder beat writer Brandon Rabar. Brandon, how are you doing now back in Oklahoma City?
I'm doing well. Very much enjoyed the trip to Indianapolis. One of the questions I've been asked all is like, how does, the Pacers crowd compare to the Thunder crowd? Because, as we all know, Loud City is the best arena in the NBA, one of the best atmospheres in sports. But the Pacers crowd, there's been a lot of talk about how they also small market, passionate, loud fans. And it's true. They lived up to the hype. I got to say, as advertised, the Pacers crowd was fantastic. I really liked the arena, but I got to say, they came in number 2 in my, playoff crowd rankings that I've experienced live and in person, with OKC and Loud City still being number 1. So, and by the way, I've only seen 2 this postseason. so I guess they're number 2, but they're also in last place. But it was a great atmosphere.
Yeah, and they seem pretty impressive on TV as well. And I'd be interested to see how the Thunder fans show out for Game 5, because that's a pretty big one. But the Indiana fans, it seemed like they stood almost the entirety of Game 4. They knew what was at stake and what, control would be had if they were able to pull Game 4 out.
Yeah, for sure. And it felt that way in the arena. And obviously, for the majority of the game, Game 4, the Pacers were winning that game. And, it looked dangerous there for a while. That the Thunder, kind of the title hopes felt like maybe they were slipping away, and it was going to maybe go back to OKC 3-1. The energy in the building, obviously, for the Pacers was big time, and they were feeding off that energy. But yeah, I'm sorry, I just got home from this trip, so I'm not my most eloquent right now, but it was an exciting trip. That Game 4, though, the atmosphere in the building was top notch, just not as top notch as OKC and Loud City. It really is true. I want to say this: the Loud City experience is unbelievable, and as great as the Pacers crowd was, that the volume, the sheer volume that I've experienced in these playoffs in Oklahoma City has been unreal. But yeah, the energy in the building was big time. But that's what was so impressive about the Thunder and Shai and Dub and Chet and Caruso and Dort in that fourth quarter, not only fighting the Pacers, but also that energy from the crowd.
Well, let's talk about games 3 and 4 a little bit more in depth. But I think the big question is what's going to happen in game 5. And the script might already be written. I'm going to go to a tweet that you dropped going through Denver game 1, where Oklahoma City led all game, loses on a buzzer beater. Indy game 1, same thing. Denver game 2, OKC blowout win. Indy game 2, same thing. Denver game 3, Thunder have the lead going into the fourth, lose by 9. Indy game 3, exact same thing, exact same 9-point loss. And then go game 4 in Denver, Oklahoma City trails. It feels like things are slipping away. Could be a 3-1 deficit, but the Thunder rally and win. Indy in game 4, Oklahoma City trails most of the game, comes back and win. Has the script been written for game 5?
If so, then that means that the Thunder are going to be down. It's going to look dangerous. Then Lou Dort is going to hit 3 threes in a row in the fourth quarter and save the Thunder, and the Thunder clutch out a win in game 5. If that happens, if the Thunder are down and Lou Dort hits 3 threes in the fourth quarter and they end up winning game 5, like, it's either the NBA scriptwriters or, you know, we're living in the Matrix or simulation or something, because then it gets really, really freaky.
Yeah. Well, I would be okay with the same result, though, of a Thunder win in game 5. I'm sure it's what everybody's rooting for here. But let's go back to game 3. That one was rough. It was a tough game. It was a back and forth game. It was a very close game. But it really felt to me like the Thunder didn't play the way that we've seen them play pretty much all playoffs. And if anything, the script was flipped, and the Pacers were almost out-thundering the Thunder. It was the Pacer defense which led the way for that victory. They forced 19 Thunder turnovers, which led to 21 Pacer points. They turned the ball over just 14 times. They had more fast break points than the Thunder. And then, I guess, like we've seen the Thunder do so many times, there's, the depth and the bench players come out and show out. But that happened for the Pacers. Mathurin scored 27 points, I think, set a career playoff high. TJ McConnell played really well. Obi Toppin played really well. And then their star player, Halliburton, had a fantastic game. He was aggressive from the very beginning. So it was like the Pacers had a Thunder-like performance, and the Thunder were on the receiving end of that kind of overwhelming force that the Thunder typically do to their opponents.
Yeah, it really very much felt like the Thunder were being thundered. It was strange to see, because we see the Thunder do this to teams all the time, and it's just so odd to see the Thunder not be the team that is the more forceful team, the more physical team, the more aggressive team that imposes their will. Just strange. And especially, the fear of this Pacers team was always about the offense and the playmaking and the three-point shooting and all those things. And the Thunder outshoot the Pacers from three-point range. It's like the script was completely flipped for game 3, and what was up was down and what was down was up. And it was just a strange game all around, quite honestly. I felt at the end of the third quarter when J-Dub hit that 3 at the buzzer to put the Thunder up 5, it felt like the Thunder were finally kind of taking control and kind of putting the stamp on it a little bit. And, those end of quarter buzzer beater 3s are always such big momentum plays. But obviously it just wasn't going to happen that night. And the Pacers, as they had done in games 1 and 2 as well, just, outplayed the Thunder in the fourth quarter. Through 3 games, the Thunder were leading after all three games. The Thunder were leading after 3 quarters, and they lost the fourth quarter in every single game. And that happened, of course, in game 3.
Yeah, Shai had a good game, but it looked like towards the end of the game that that full court press that the Pacers put on kind of had him exhausted in that fourth quarter. Did you sense that as well? That maybe Shai didn't have the gas in that fourth quarter when the Pacers outscored the Thunder 32-18?
For sure, and I think it was because they were throwing so many bodies at him. As soon as he passed half court, he was getting trapped. They were attacking that pick and roll, and Shai talked about it in the post game, how they were playing the pick and roll so much higher. They were going above the screen. They were throwing two at him, and obviously we saw an adjustment in Game 4, which I'm sure we'll get to. But I think the fact that he was having to work so hard just to, get across the half court line and try to get free, try to break free, try to get the ball back. Everything was such high effort. I think it was just taking its toll. And then, of course, on defense, he was being put into some actions. The game plan was obviously to wear out Shai, and Mark adjusted for Game 4, obviously with the rotations and how he did that, because I think it was very apparent that Shai was pretty gassed at the end of the fourth quarter, which of course, played into why the Pacers outplayed the Thunder so much in that final frame.
Yeah, and then the other thing I want to mention in Game 3 is Chet Holmgren. So Chet came out with a pretty quick, hot start. I think he had 13 points in the first quarter, and then he kind of disappeared. He struggled shooting the ball from there on out, and that could have been the difference. If Chet had kept pace with the way that he started through the remainder of the game, we might be talking about a 3-1 OKC series lead.
Yeah, I absolutely think, it's one of those things. Only Game 2 was, a secure kind of almost blowout win, and the Thunder won that one. But Game 1, you felt like the Thunder gave that one away, and they should have had that. Game 3, you felt like the Thunder could have had that game. You're up 5 going into the fourth quarter. It has some momentum, and had Chet played with the same style that he played in to open up the game, and Dort was hitting threes. Dort and Chet, I think, combined for like 20 points, maybe 21 points in the first quarter, and then ended up scoring 11 combined points the rest of the way. And so, they started off so strong, and if, they play at all like that, if they would have passed the ball around, found better shots, there's a lot that I think the Thunder could have changed in the fourth quarter of Game 3, and they very easily could have won. I felt like, the games that they've lost, you just look at it and you're like, man, they really had an opportunity to win those games.
Yeah, and turnovers really probably are the big story about that. And Shai had a very un-Shai night with 6 turnovers to 4 assists. It's extremely rare that he has more turnovers than assists. He's really good at protecting the ball, especially with his volume. That was really surprising. And then what also surprised me, if you look at the box score, was Alex Caruso, 32 minutes, scored just 8 points, and he was a minus 15, which is just opposite of everything that Caruso had done these playoffs.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, obviously, and Caruso was coming off that huge Game 2 where he and Wiggins just dominated. And, it was the Thunder won with those bench guys, largely with Wiggins and Caruso going off in Game 2. And then, Game 3, Caruso and Wiggins obviously did not have the impact that they did in Game 2. And then it was the Pacers bench with Benedict Mathurin going off for 27. Mathurin outscored the Thunder bench by himself 27-18. Like, it's hard to win just that stat alone. If you know nothing else about that game whatsoever, and you just saw that stat, you're like, yeah, it's going to be hard for the Thunder to win. McConnell had 10. It felt like 30. I think the two biggest stories of Game 3 were the turnovers, like you said, where the Thunder usually live off of turnovers and scoring off those points. So to turn the ball over more than an opponent and for the opponent to score more points off of those. And then the bench scoring 49-18. To me, that was the biggest storyline. And thankfully for the Thunder, Caruso bounced back in a big way in Game 4.
So let's go to Game 4. Again, for the second time in the playoffs, the Thunder are in a 2-1 deficit, have a Game 4 on the road in a basically a must-win situation and struggle. So it was a tie game in the first quarter, and it really felt to me like the Thunder were just barely holding on. The crowd was so into that game in Indianapolis, and you could just feel like the Pacers had an edge about them, and the Thunder were just holding on for dear life in that first quarter. The Thunder sort of did more of the same in the second quarter, and it was a 3-point game going in at the half, but things started to get really scary in that third quarter as the Pacers built a little bit of a lead. I think in the third quarter they took their largest lead of the game at 9, and it felt like, to me, the finals were starting to slip away. Kind of what were your takeaways leading into the fourth quarter?
Yeah, it felt very... I've seen this team, and you've seen this team. We've all seen this team if you followed this team, not only this season, but the previous couple of seasons. They're so resilient. We've seen so many comebacks. We've seen them in tight spots. We've seen them fight their way back. They never give up. They always fight. Just when you start to doubt them, that's when, they go on some sort of run and they win a game that you don't see coming. And I saw it on social media. Like, it was hard not to kind of lose hope, not only in the game, but in the series, because you're like, well, this game isn't happening. It's not happening tonight. The Pacers have control of this game. And if they lose this one, it's 3-1. And I know 2 of the next 3 are in Oklahoma City, but it just felt dire. It felt like a true shot at a championship for Oklahoma City was there for the taking, and it was just slipping away. And that was the feeling. But I say all that to say, but I know this team. So I still hadn't given up. I still did not doubt that they could do it. But I was like, man, if they're going to do it, they need to do it now. Like, coming into the fourth quarter, down 7, I was like, they got to do it now. Shai's in the game. They got to go on a run here. They can still do this. But it felt like it was slipping away.
Yeah, and that first half, I mean, they ended up putting up 57 points, so not a terrible scoring first half, but it was a really tough first half where the Thunder shot just 1 of 10 from 3. They had 8 turnovers. Shai, he scored 12 points, but he seemed fairly passive. He was a minus 12, which is the team worst in that first half, which is shocking to see Shai in that category. Chet was struggling shooting. He was 1 of 4 from the field. He had just 6 points at the half, thanks to 4 free throws. J-Dub, I think, is trying to keep the team in the game. He was being very aggressive. He was getting a line. He was 8-8 from threes, from the free throw line. And a lot of it, maybe for the Thunder to stay in it, was that free throw shooting. They were 16-17. But going back to Shai, we talked in game 3 how he was gassed in the fourth quarter. It almost seemed like Shai was taking off 60% of the plays that he was out there and maybe conserving energy for that second half.
I think that it was a concerted effort to make sure that Shai had energy down the stretch, because the Pacers, as we mentioned before, had won all these fourth quarters, and the Thunder were in striking distance, and they changed up his rotation. He left, he checked out early in the first quarter. He typically plays full first quarters. And then he checked out early in the third quarter. He typically plays full third quarters. And like you said, J-Dub carried that offense in a big way early on. They also changed. Hartenstein started. I don't think it was because they got off to bad starts. They actually had gotten off to good starts. It's so funny because everybody was criticizing the move. And if you look at when the Thunder, had the better stretches of games, they started off really well in the first and third quarter of game 3 with the starters out there. But I think they started Hartenstein to help free up Shai from all the bodies and those pick and rolls and the screens and all those things. Hartenstein's big body to try to free up Shai. I think there was a concerted effort to make sure Shai had energy, had stamina, and to try to get him some help to get Nembhard and the double team off of him. So yes, I think that was a planned thing.
Yeah. So that second half, third quarter started to get away, but let's advance to the fourth quarter because that's probably what everybody wants to hear about, and that's where the Thunder made their comeback. But, first again, Indy did extend the lead. They had that 7-point lead going into the fourth quarter. I think they built up a 9-point lead late in the third. And after Indiana got that 7-point lead, the Thunder just sort of crawled their way back into it, right? Something that has been missing in both games 3 and games 4 is that prototypical Thunder run. We saw it in game 2. It just didn't happen in game 3. And then Indiana kind of had their own little mini one to take that lead in the third quarter. But in the fourth, it was just grinding for the Thunder to get back into the game.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. And it felt, like it was within reach. They'd get it to within 4, but then Indiana would hit a shot or get a couple free throws. It was 6, it was 4, it was 5, it was 3. But I think the biggest shot of the game was when they were down 4 and Shai hit that 3 with 2 seconds left on the shot clock, and they got it to within 1. And I think it's the first time, some real doubt started to creep in the arena and some real worry. Obviously, nerves were high in the arena, but the energy was still high because, they'd been able to keep the Thunder at 2 or 3 possessions away. But when Shai hit that 3, I think Thunder fans felt like, hey, maybe this can happen. And Pacers fans felt like, hey, maybe this can happen. And then Shai just takes over the game. And the Thunder defense takes over the game. The formula to the Thunder's dominance that we've seen all season long and in the playoffs completely played out down the stretch of the biggest game in Thunder history.
Yeah, and the story really is the way that Shai closed that game. He scored 15 of the last 16 points for the Thunder. He scored 15 of the 31 points scored by the Thunder in that quarter. He made the only 3-point shot that the Thunder completed in that fourth quarter. So the Thunder went 1 of 3. He also added 8 free throws, and he was a team leading, I think, plus 12 in that, plus 16 in that final frame. And, again, to the point about it seemed like they were trying to conserve SGA's energy. Even that third quarter, I think the rotation was he came out a little bit earlier. They want to preserve him for that fourth quarter. And I think they were lightening his workload as far as how much he was the primary ball handler. It seemed like J-Dub was the primary ball handler on so many more possessions than he typically would. But when crunch time came and we needed somebody to bring the Thunder back and then hold on to that lead, it was 100% in Shai's hands. And really in that first part of the game, I was wondering, is there something up with Shai? Is he not healthy or something? Because he just didn't seem like he was full go. But in that fourth quarter, in the final 5-6 minutes, he was 100% full go.
This is legacy making stuff. If the Thunder go on to win this series and they win the title and Shai wins finals MVP, and all of a sudden you have a season where he wins MVP, scoring title, Western Conference Finals MVP, and Finals MVP at 26 years old. This is that legacy-making stretch to me. In the NBA Finals, this is the stuff you watch growing up, the NBA, the legends of the game, the legacies that were made. It stretches like these. It's just... when you're a kid, it seems different because you're watching these icons, you're watching these legends of the game. And now it's Shai, who we've all, as, Thunder fans and analysts and things like that, have watched him grow to this point. It's like we're watching him in real time build his legacy if the Thunder win this series and they win a championship, because he completely took over the game the way that an MJ would, or the way that a Kobe would, or name your, fill in the blank with legend of the game. That's what the legends do. That's what the guys that make legacies in the playoffs do. They take over games in the playoffs on the road in a hostile environment, down 5, 6, 7 points, and they make bucket after bucket after bucket. And that's what Shai did. And it's we watched it in real time. He took over the game and he won a critical, crucial finals MVP that may have saved the Thunder's season and the Thunder's championship hopes.
Yeah, and in those final minutes too, like it wasn't just offensively, it was on the defensive end too. Like he was locked in, and I, look back at that 3-pointer. Halliburton taking the 3-pointers, like 4 minutes left to go in the game, and Shai just knows all of his moves. He's 100% dialed in. He blocks that shot. That could have been not a dagger at that point in the game because there's still 4 minutes left to go, but a huge swing in momentum with Indiana having that 2-point lead. That shot goes in. It's a 5-point lead with 4 minutes to go. So, I mean, it was the Shai show running down the stretch that led the Thunder to victory. And, of course, there were some other players that contributed. Chet played incredible defense down the stretch. So, it really was, the Thunder's defense that made a big difference. But, Shai was a complete player, and obviously the Thunder get run out of the building if he's not, putting up his MVP-like performance there in that fourth quarter.
He was he was unbelievable, and some of the shots that he was hitting were just unreal. Like I know that social media, of course, this is going to happen. Call it a travel or a push off or whatever. Like, first of all, it wasn't a travel. If you want to call it a push off, that's fine, but they're never going to call that. Plus, he was probably fouled before an alleged push off. Anyways, the point being that baseline jumper that he hit to give the Thunder the lead for the first time after he hit the three, where he's off balance, trying to gain his footing, and he goes right into his classic, prototypical Shai baseline jumper and nails it to give him the lead. Just incredible shot making from Shai.
Yeah, and it's probably worth talking about the calls there. I mean, that is what's been all over social media. It's been what's been talked about on Reddit is the whistle, is Scott Foster. And, granted, the Thunder took 14 free throws in the fourth quarter. On the other hand, the Pacers took 10, so it wasn't like it was a completely imbalanced number there. But, the Thunder took 3 total 3-pointers in that final frame. They were aggressive. They were trying to get to the basket. I mean, call it what you want. By being aggressive, you're more likely to get those calls, right? You're more likely to get called for fouls because your defender is going to be on their heels, and that's really what it's about. And you look at the tape and all the complaints about the calls that the Thunder were getting, they were fouls. Yeah. I mean, it's not like you look at the tape and there are all these phantom fouls, and I've seen people talk about these phantom fouls, but they'll take the picture or they'll start the clip after the foul occurred.
Yes,
trying to create this narrative. Yeah,
exactly.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. The Thunder did not win because of Scott Foster, and yes, they took 4 more free throws in the fourth quarter. Not only were they more aggressive, like you said, and the Pacers, took so many jump shots and threes, but also some of those were intentional fouls there at the end because the Thunder were up, and so they were intentionally fouling. Plus, Benedict Mathurin had 2 off-ball fouls that ended up in 2 free throws in addition to the intentional free throws. Those were like accidental intentional free throws, I guess. So no, there was some tick-tacky calls, I thought, in the fourth quarter both ways, but 100% the Thunder did not win this because of Scott Foster. The Thunder won this because of incredible defense down the stretch, especially by Chet and Dort. And they kept trying to ISO Chet with their guards like Halliburton and Nembhard, and he was staying with them move for move. I saw that the Pacers only shot 4 of 22 with Chet as the primary defender in Game 4. Just incredible work. And then Shai went out and took this game. And, say what you want. Shai was the MVP this season for a reason, and he's been the best player in the playoffs. And he was the best player in Game 4, and he was the best player in the last 5 minutes of Game 4, and the Thunder were the better team.
Yeah, and he saved the Thunder season. He really did, and that's what you would expect the MVP to do. But also credit to the big three. J-Dub had a fantastic game. He scored 27 points. Again, he was the primary ball handler throughout most of the game. He got to the line a bunch because he was being aggressive. He also had 7 rebounds and 3 assists. Chet had 14 points, but his defense was so critical, especially down the stretch. He also had 15 rebounds, including 4 offensive rebounds. You don't see Chet put up those kind of rebounding numbers that often, but I mean, he was dialed in on that side of the ball because of how critical it was to get those rebounds. And then maybe there's kind of a big forward if you want to add in Alex Caruso, who also scored 20 points. He had 5 steals in this game. He was a difference maker as well. He's also, I think, maybe the first player in history to have 2 20-point finals games, despite not having any in the regular season is the stat, I think. So shouts to Caruso, who's been a difference maker in the finals.
Yeah, this was a team when, like, Shai was the man who saved the Thunder season over the final stretch. He was the MVP, did MVP things, but absolutely the big three, like you said. By the way, those Chet putbacks that he had, those 2 back-to-back putbacks he had, one of them being a dunk, were absolutely huge. Came in crucial parts where they were making the run. Caruso was just everywhere. He's been outstanding. Jada really did carry the offense the first half, and he made critical buckets, and he was perfect from the free throw line. The big three, Shai, Chet, and Jada combined 27 of 27 from the free throw line. From a 26, 24, and 23-year-old in the biggest game in franchise history, with all the pressure in a hostile environment, went 27 of 27 from the free throw line. Meanwhile, Benedict Mathurin, who had the huge game 3, missed 3 free throws in a row there in critical, time of the game, crucial part of the game. So you just cannot blame free throws if you're not making your free throws. And then, I thought one other guy besides the big three and Alex Caruso, I'd say Lou Dort, even though his numbers didn't pop, I still thought that his defense was big time as well. He made a couple of really big plays defensively as well. But to me, clearly those 5 in this particular series have been the Thunder's best 5.
Yeah. And I was going to mention Dort because I think his defense on Haliburton was incredible. I mean, the way that he stays glued to the guy he's defending and forcing it, making it so difficult for those screens to come in, because that's, how most offenses operate with your primary ball handler. It's certainly how they do it with Haliburton, where they try to get those high screens. But the way that Dort's just out there defending, I mean, even 30 feet away from the basket, it just makes it so much more difficult to create that space with any screens when Dort is already there. He fights over the screens really, really well. He had some pretty significant steals down the stretch. And the 1 3 that he made was big, right? In the game where the Thunder only made 3 threes, he had a third of the 3-point shots that were made. So, I mean, just a really incredible win for the Thunder. It really was snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, and gives the team a lot of momentum going into Game 5 and really to close. I mean, we could talk about the fouls and the calls all day long, and I think that that's been the story, and we've already talked about it. But so frustrating that's what the casuals want to talk about and the Pacers fans want to talk about, when really the story is the Thunder with an incredible gritty comeback to tie the series at 2-2, of course, led by the MVP.
It's very frustrating to watch this Thunder team, one of the youngest in playoff history, win a game like this on the road, to keep their composure and to play like that. And then had the MVP of the league, he's having an all-time great season, who is actually, getting to the free throw line at a lesser rate than most MVP winners of the past, and has this incredible legacy, building performance to win an NBA Finals game. And if this is any other superstar, that's the story. That's the headline. That's what everybody's talking about. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, now he's under a microscope, because of the silly narrative, which is a false narrative. And so any foul that comes up, this kind of illustrates the point. Shai had 2 free throws coming into the fourth quarter, I believe. And on those 2 free throws, the Pacers crowd started chanting flopper. He had 2 free throws through 3 quarters, and on those 2 free throws, the only ones of the game, they were chanting flopper. I mean, so it's just a narrative. And it's very unfortunate because we're seeing a superstar, come into his own in real time. And that should be the story. That should be the narrative. That should be the headline. And, people just don't want to give him or this team the credit. And it's very unfortunate. But Thunder fans realize what they're watching and experiencing and fully enjoy it. Don't let the narratives bother you. A championship, if they win it, is going to taste just as sweet, whether or not, social media appreciates it or not.
Yeah, and I think the last little button I'll put on this is almost to the day of the 1998 NBA Finals, there was a controversial theoretical push-off by one player named Michael Jordan that helped the Bulls win that game. And I think Jordan ended up having a pretty good career, and it's pretty well regarded today.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's this team, it's like that quote from The Godfather 3, Michael Corleone, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. And I think that's how Thunder fans felt, because a lot of Thunder fans felt like the season, it was slipping away. And like I saw some comments like, season's over, on to next year. And just when you thought they were out, they pull you back in. Incredible clutch performance, team-wide, team win. And now all of a sudden, it's a 3-game series with OKC with home court advantage, 2 of the 3 games in OKC, and the loud city atmosphere for Game 5 on Monday is going to be incredible.
So let's give a little bit of a preview of Game 5, but leading into that, I do want to give credit to the Pacers because, I think
yes,
for good reason, going into the series, all the money, all the predictions, everything was favoring the Thunder to probably take this one in 5. And now best case scenario, if the Thunder do win this, they can take it in 6. That's the best for that they can do here. And the Pacers have just been in almost every game. They have been surprising with how good their defense has been. They forced again 16 turnovers in Game 4 after forcing 17 turnovers in Game 3. They've had some pretty big clutch shots and great shot making. Coaching for Rick Carlisle's been really, really good. He's made great adjustments. So we have a series, and credit belongs to the Pacers at making this a series because they have played incredibly well. And the casuals who aren't watching the series because they're frustrated about it not being big markets, or you don't have LeBron or Luka or somebody else in this or the Celtics. This has been an incredible NBA Finals, and Game 5, I think, is probably going to be another dogfight because both teams are in it, motivated. The coaches are making adjustments on the fly, and this may be an all-time great NBA Finals.
This is it feels like an all-time great NBA Finals, and I'm with you. I want to co-sign on the Pacers and how impressive they've been. You watched it from afar because they're in the East, and you just kind of assume it's going to be the Celtics and Cavs coming out of the East, so you're just kind of not paying as close of attention. But you see them, you watch the games, and they roll through the Bucks, but you're like, yeah, they didn't really have Dame. They weren't fully healthy. The Bucks were disappointed. Then they roll over the Cavs, the 64-win Cavs, but you're like, okay, but they weren't fully healthy. They were a couple of the games, but they weren't quite themselves. But hey, impressive Pacers. And then they beat the Knicks, and the Knicks beat the Celtics, who everybody thought was coming out of the East. And not only did they beat the Knicks, they did it in such convincing fashion. But then you're like, okay, but yeah, this Thunder team is a different animal, which is true. And I still believe that. But here we are at 2-2. This Pacers team, you thought that their defense would be a weakness and something that, you could take advantage of. You just worried about the offense and slowing that down. But they've been really, really good on defense. They're so well coached. Rick Carlisle is so good, and the players are smart and bought in, just like the Thunder. So I think you got to give a lot of credit to the Pacers. They've been very impressive, and this has been a fun, entertaining, exciting NBA Finals that everybody should be watching. And if they're not, they're just missing out.
100%. So let's rapid fire a little bit about Game 5 and Game 5 previews. So just give me your quick answer here. First, are we starting double bigs again in Game 5, or are we going back to Case and Wallace?
Starting double bigs again. I think that they made the switch back, keep it.
Is the rotation that was adopted for Shai in Game 4 going to be the same rotation Shai gets in Game 5?
I believe so. It worked. They want to save his energy, but the energy will be higher in Loud City, And that may affect things. That may affect his personal energy, and it may affect the scoreboard, which may affect rotations.
Will the Thunder make more than 3 3-pointers in Game 5?
100% yes. That was unbelievable. 3 of 17 from 3 and winning is the craziest stat you'll see in the NBA in 2025. 100% pound the over 3 made threes.
All right. Over under 15 turnovers for the Thunder in Game 5.
Under. They're going to take better care of the ball at home.
Okay. Over under 15 turnovers for the Pacers.
Over. The Thunder are going to turn the ball over defensively more at home.
All right. Can Loud City and the Thunder crowd be even louder than they had been in the finals games to date?
Unbelievably, I will say yes. This is a different level of game and stakes. And Shai said it best. Somehow, he doesn't know how, but the Thunder crowd just keeps getting louder and louder. I don't know how it happens. I don't know what the logistics are on it, but it keeps happening.
All right, Sind. Who is the X factor for the Thunder in Game 5 besides SGA?
I will say Alex Caruso. Nope, scratch that. I will say Lou Dort. This is a home game, and so we're going to get home shooting splits. Lou Dort. So I will give the nod. I think that we know now what Shai, Dub, Chet, and Caruso are going to bring. I think Dort is a big X factor in a Game 5, much like Denver at home.
Will Shai get an assist in this game, unlike in Game 4?
Such a crazy stat. Yes, pound the over on 0 assists for Shai.
Okay, and then sort of to close it out, I have a sneaking suspicion that if I were just to ask whether the Thunder are going to win or lose, you'd say the Thunder are going to win at home. They got a little momentum. Certainly would expect the Thunder to win. So I'm going to make it a little bit more challenging for you. Is it going to be a double-digit win for the Thunder or a single-digit win for the Thunder?
That is tough. I don't want to put the expectation out there, raise any expectations, but I'm kind of feeling a slightly double-digit win.
All right. And then just thinking about Game 6, let's assume and let's hope, let's pray the Thunder pull out a Game 5 and they're locked in for that. Can the Thunder pull out a closeout win in Indiana in Game 6?
Yes, they can. They will have in a row that, for the Pacers, demoralizing loss in Game 4, then compound it with, in this scenario, a Game 5 win. So that's 2 straight losses. They could definitely go back there with that momentum and take Game 6. But it feels like a 7-game series, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you're a Thunder fan, obviously you want them to win in 6. You don't want the stress of a Game 7. And 100 times out of 100, that's what you're going to choose. But I will say this. It would be a lot more sweet and a lot more fun for them to win a Game 7 in front of the home crowd and to celebrate that in Loud City.
Yeah, absolutely. But certainly a Game 7 is quite terrifying with all that's at stake. But
yes.
Yeah. I mean,
so just
I wouldn't
win at 6. Hey, have the parade. Time to celebrate will be at the parade, not on the Thunder home court, right? Just get it done in 6.
Well, first the Thunder have to take care of business in Game 5, so lots to watch on Monday night. Certainly excited about that. And Brandon, thanks for traveling out to Indiana and getting a firsthand recap of Games 3 and Games 4.
Yeah, and thank you to Daily Thunder for the support on the trip. It was awesome. It was great to be out there. Met so many cool people. It's just wild. Like walking downtown Indy and seeing the likes of Charles Barkley and Malika Andrews and just kind of being, the Oklahoma City was the hub, the center of the basketball universe for a week, and then it shifted to Indiana for a few days. So very, very cool to be kind of in the middle of all that and get to experience. And for Thunder fans, this is just so much fun because the Thunder, all eyes in the sports world right now are on the Thunder and the Pacers, and it's just really, really cool to experience all this.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time, and now you're back in the friendly confines of the Paycom Center for Game 5. So that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm John Napier, host of the podcast, and he's Brandon Rabar, Daily Thunder beat writer. If you enjoy the show, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Thunder podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back in your feed soon.